tell me that billions of people died. Places were left empty and quarantined. And the doctors? They are looking for a cure. Trying to make sure it never happens again. The world is back to normal, they say. But for how long? They want to save lives by destroying mine. So I died here. I always die here.
Chapter 1, Year 2053. In a remote part of North Alaska, at a World Cure medical research facility. Dr. Stewart, would you step into my office for a moment, please? Eva looked up from the microscope as the voice came through the speaker on her desk. She straightened and groaned as her back muscles protested, stiff from an hour of bending over. She left the room and strode down the white, gleaming hall to the office of Dr. Ross, the head of the research department. She smoothed the wrinkles from her lab coat and knocked on the door. Come. Dr. Ross did not look up as Eva came in. Instead, he remained behind his desk, studying the transparent computer screen in front of him. She stood and watched, waiting for him to look up and speak to her. He was a formidable man, and not only because he was tall. He kept his head and eyebrows shaved. Less to take care of, he remarked once. And his eyes were pale and watery. He looked, in fact, as if he had been raised in a dark closet. Ah, Dr. Stewart. He looked up. About time, Eva thought. Thank you for coming. I wanted to speak to you about upping your pay grade. Eva's eyes widened, and she folded her arms, waiting for him to continue. How would you like to become a handler? Eva stared at him. A handler meant she would be given access to beneath. A handler meant she would have her own subject to work with. Her studies would leap forward. She would no longer be hampered by working with previous research. She could make her own discoveries. This would give her a chance to truly find a cure for morbus. Well? Dr. Ross looked at her with an expression that would have required a raised eyebrow, if he had any eyebrow to raise. Are you going to answer me, Dr. Stewart? I would like that very much, Doctor, Eva finally managed. She curled her fingers in eagerness, but kept her bearing professional. Professionalism was extremely important in her line of work, and she adhered to it with rigidity. A pleased smile broke out on Dr. Ross's face. Good. Excellent. If you will just hand me your card, I'll update it. She unclipped the card from the collar of her lab coat and handed it over, watching as he placed it in a slot on his desk and typed a command into the computer. There was a click and a beep, and he handed her back the card. Congratulations, Dr. Stewart. You have great potential, and I know you will do equally great things. Now, he rose from the desk and moved around it, walking forward to shake Eva's hand. I'll take you down beneath and introduce you to the warden. Yes, sir. Eva followed him out of the office and strode down the labyrinth of white corridors lit by fluorescent lights. When she had arrived here at World Cure, she had been overwhelmed by the antiseptic smell of the whole place, but now she was so used to it that when she went outside and breathed fresh air, it was almost strange. At the end of the third hall, a scanner was embedded in the wall by a steel door. Dr. Ross paused to swipe his card into it. The bolt slid aside and the door clicked open an inch. Dr. Ross opened it the rest of the way, and Eva descended down a flight of steps behind him. Strips of dim white light ran along either side of the concrete ceiling. They reached the bottom, and Eva blinked as her eyes adjusted to the darkness. She'd never been beneath before, and the main facilities where she had worked were always flushed in harsh white. "Warden!" barked Dr. Ross. A man appeared from a small, dingy-looking office to the left. He was short but muscular, and his mouth looked as if it had been frowning since the moment he was born. "Dr. Ross," he said stiffly, his eyes over to Eva. "Is this the new handler?" "Yes. This is Dr. Stewart. Dr. Stewart, this is Brenton, our warden." Eva nodded politely at the warden, who continued to scowl. "You know there's only one subject left without a handler, right?" Dr. Ross frowned. Who do you think?" Brenton snorted. "Tiger." "Aha." Dr. Ross looked hesitantly at Eva. "Dr. Stewart, I apologize, but you may have to wait until we can produce a new subject other than 13. "Why?" asked Eva. "Is something wrong with 13? "Not exactly," said Dr. Ross. At the same time, Brenton said, "Only everything." "If the subject is defective, why do you keep it?" she asked, raising one eyebrow. Dr. Ross sighed and ran a hand over his face. 13 is an unusual subject, I'll say," grunted Benton, crossing his bulky arms over his barrel chest. "It's escaped twice and both killed and seriously injured 6 guards in the time it's been here." "Twice?" Eva asked incredulously. 6 guards? A subject escaping is almost unheard of, and 13 has managed it twice? She looked back at Dr. Ross, whose eyes were narrowed at the warden. "The 13 has been here since it was an infant," he explained, turning his gaze back to Eva. "How old is it?" "Early 20s. Eva could not hide her surprise. "And it's still alive?" "Most subjects did not survive the first years in the facility, regardless of their age. They were lucky if they lasted 12 months. "That is why we cannot afford to dispose of it." Dr. Ross's voice was clipped. "It has been our most successful subject, and it is extraordinarily resilient to our tests. We have never had another subject like it." "I see. What's the problem with it, then? Why are you reluctant to hand it over to me?" Eva planted one gloved hand on her hip. "It's dangerous, ma'am," Benton said. "Like I told you, it's killed a few people, and it wasn't pretty. Ripped one of their arms clean off and snapped another's spine. And no offense, ma'am, but you're a woman, and a small one at that. Frankly, you can't handle Tiger." Eva stiffened and glared at Brenton. Their eyes locked until she was sure he knew exactly what she thought of him. "I would like to see 13, if you don't mind," she said, with the words encased in ice. "Of course," said Dr. Ross, "as long as you understand the dangers." He led her down the dimly lit corridor. Their footsteps echoed faintly off the concrete walls as they passed one steel door after another. Each door had a faded number on it, painted in white. They stopped when they came to the door marked 13. "It's no coincidence its number is 13, said Brenton, who walked behind them. "It's unlucky, that one." "Please open the outer door," was all Eva said. Her tone was frigid as the air around her. She shivered. "Why do you keep it so cold down here?" Brenton shrugged and typed a number into the keypad on the door. "Colder temperatures slow down the subject's physical and mental functions," Dr. Ross explained. "Not many of them need it. Most of them are semi-comatose at all times, but we find it practical." Brenton grunted. There. The outer door slid open with a harsh grinding sound, and Eva took a few steps forward. Behind the outer door was another one, made of 6-inch thick plastiglass. The cell was dark, and it was difficult to judge how large it was. "Where's the subject?" asked Eva, squinting for a glimpse of it. "It usually keeps to the back, unless it's gone crazy," said Benton. "Just wait. It knows you're here. Trust me." Eva waited. Minutes ticked by, and she began to wonder if there was anything in the cell at all. She was just about to ask Brenton if there was any way she could make it visible, when 2 small dots of light appeared at the back of the cell. "What is that?" asked Eva, leaning forward to get a better look. "It's looking at you," said Brenton. "Its eyes glow?" Dr. Ross answered. "It was an experiment with phosphorescence. A study suggested that properties in the phosphorescence might have dimmed the effect of morbus. It did not work well enough, so the experiment was considered a failure. but it still appears in the subject's eyes when its heart rate is elevated over 100. "What is 13's serial number?" asked Eva, staring at the two spots of light and darkness. 6223-4897, said Brenton. "See it, can you?" Eva squinted at the darkness. She was sure she could see 3, a dash, and part of 4 in the darkness. "Yes, but—" "It's probably crouching," said Benton. "It does that a lot. 13 was tattooed on the chest, and it turns out that whatever you doctors did to make its eyes glow also lights up its tattoo. It makes it easy to spot when it's not hiding, but when it crouches like that, you can't see it." "Interesting." Eva took a mental note of Brenton's information. "Does any other part of it fluorescence?" "It has a couple of scars, actually," said Brenton, leaning against the wall with his arms crossed. "On its shoulder blades. Those light up too. That's why down here we call it Tiger." "I'd like to look at its chart, if you don't mind, Doctor," said Eva. "Certainly." Eva followed him out, glancing back only once as the outer door slid closed over cell 13 and the burning eyes.